What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining us today. I think I fixed the audio issue. In fact, let me turn this down just a little bit. I think I fixed the audio issue that has been happening as of late. I don't know why it just suddenly started doing that. I'm not exactly sure, but I do think that I fixed it. I just brought everything over from the home studio when I brought it here, and I didn't change any settings, but I'm wondering if one of these switches got hit on the microphone and was causing the issue. So I was able to actually adjust it. Pop's filter is off of it right now. I'm reworking the shock mount, all of that stuff. Bunch of tech issues today. And I'm still working on the other website, the new website that will be available just to my Discord subscribers, my Discord members, for testing purposes. And then it will, of course, launch publicly, and you all get that notification, get a little bit of a sneak peek and that sort of thing. So new website is going to have the news aggregator on it, but it's going to be better than it is now, a little bit more attractive. It's going to have my website with my posts, my daily show prep, the podcast, the live stream, everything on there. Basically, my current website is being replaced with the new one. There will be site membership, which there'll be different tiers. Right now, there's only one tier, which is totally free. That can get you access to certain posts if I end up locking down like daily show prep or something like that, just so you're a member. Newsletter will be incorporated into the new website, and we will also have, this is the big feature that everybody's looking for, the brand new social network. So brand new social network just for my listeners. A lot of you love Discord, and a lot of people don't like Discord. They don't want to be on Discord. They want to actually have a social network that looks and feels very similar to Facebook or what have you, with groups and friends and verification and all of that stuff. So that's all coming, and it's nearly ready for launch. It's very, very close. Just working on some DNS stuff, and then we'll start doing the testing, getting people on Discord to actually get on there and start playing around with the social network and make sure that there's no major bugs or anything before we actually unveil it to everybody. We are in the Silver Fox Art Studios. I'm Casey Hendrickson. If you don't know who I am, go to silverfoxart.com. They're an amazing company to work with. This logo behind me was made by them. If you are a streamer, a podcaster, or a business, or if you just want family photos not on a normal canvas on your wall, but something made out of wood that is three-dimensional with multiple layers and even has backlighting, whether that backlighting is just amber or if it's RGB, you can get all of that taken care of custom at silverfoxart.com. And you can follow Silver Fox Art on Instagram at silver.fox.art. All right, here we go. Twitter's making Elon Musk. We talked about this yesterday. Twitter is making Elon Musk a board member. Wondered if that was going to happen. So Elon Musk is actually going to be on the board of directors, and he is going to start steering Twitter policy along with the other people there. So it'll be interesting to see what he can get done with Twitter and trying to repair Twitter. I know that he made like $1 billion or something like that after he bought the 74 million shares like a week ago. It was disclosed yesterday, and we just found out about it. It turns out that all of the stuff that he was posting on Twitter about the censorship issues on Twitter and what should be done to fix them and that sort of thing, that was all because he already had the shares of Twitter. Nobody knew. So the public disclosure came out, and now we know that he actually has not the majority, but the biggest share of Twitter. Again, Jack is number 2, and Jack only has like 2.25% of Twitter, and Elon Musk has got 9.2%. So by far and away, the biggest investor in Twitter. So now he's being brought onto the board of directors. Here's Just the News. Fantastic source, by the way. If you don't know Just the News, they should be in your daily prep, your daily sources, whatever it is. I bring their content into my news aggregator on the burningtruth.us. So if you go to the burningtruth.us, and when we get the new website up, that will forward to the new website, by the way. So you can still go there. theburningtruth.us, and I'll have a news aggregator right there on the homepage. Has some featured posts from me, my daily show prep, podcast videos, that sort of stuff. And then below that, you'll have all of these great news sources. Just the News is in there as well. So Twitter to appoint Elon Musk to the board of directors after he became the platform's largest shareholder. They will appoint Tesla CEO Elon Musk to its board of directors following the disclosure that the billionaire entrepreneur has bought 9.2% stake in the social media platform. And again, because the Twitter shares went up, I mean, he actually made $1 billion off of that, so he could have sold them and just bounced, but he didn't. He's sticking around. Now, we'll see exactly what he's able to do. I mean, I'm certainly hopeful that he's going to be successful in steering policy over at Twitter, but we will see how this actually goes. Here's the thing. If he's not successful, he'll sell his shares or maybe he'll hold on to them, but he'll be rich either way. And if he's not successful in steering Twitter policy to make Twitter, an actual decent platform to be on again, he'll probably do his own thing. He's already teased at doing his own thing anyway, but he's like, I'm already on Twitter. We already got Twitter. Why build from scratch? I can maybe change this thing and manipulate it. If only we knew. I know that we joked about this on the show. When Twitter was for sale for years, because nobody wanted it, Twitter was for sale, man, we joked, wouldn't it be great if some conservatives got together and bought Twitter? And we said it at the time. And I mean, even somebody like Elon Musk, who's not a conservative, it would have been great if somebody like him had bought Twitter. But Twitter was a cesspool. Nobody wanted to be on the platform. It was dying. It was bleeding listeners. It hadn't made any profit yet. And it had massive quantities of debt, which is why they couldn't sell Twitter. It was because of the debt. Everybody's like, this thing doesn't make money and it has massive debt, so why would we buy this thing? And we said, wouldn't it be great, though, if somebody did? Nobody did. And Trump basically single-handedly saved the platform and ironically is banned on the platform that he saved because Twitter only exists because of Donald Trump's presidency, let's be honest. So if Elon Musk can fix it, fantastic. That's great. If he can't fix it, I expect that he's going to probably do his own thing. Okay, so we'll just have to keep an eye on everything and see how this goes. Last week, we had a lot of fun making fun of Chris Wallace. And Chris Wallace, if you haven't seen that show, go back on rumble.com/Casey the host. If you're watching on YouTube, again, the primary video channel is rumble.com/Casey the host. And this is where we do the live stream every single day from 3 until 6 for the radio show. So go back and watch the Chris Wallace show. We did other stuff in there, but the Chris Wallace stuff was it was funny because just watching Chris Wallace, make the worst career move in the history, I think, of career moves has been stellar. But Maria Bartiromo, sorry, it's a little bit higher on your screen than my screen. Maria Bartiromo has slammed Chris Wallace for helping to rig the election. Interesting. Fox Business Network's Maria Bartiromo had some harsh words for MSNBC's Chris Wallace over the weekend. Now, Wallace has been attacking Fox News and particularly attacking Tucker Carlson and saying things that weren't true. Of course, Wallace has been caught lying to people and being dishonest for the past several years throughout the Trump administration. He became a sufferer of TDS, and he allowed it to affect his work. But now he's just telling everybody, like, he couldn't work at Fox. Everybody's lying, and there's a bunch of this nonsense. And of course, he didn't back anything that he set up with any facts. Wallace, who moderated the contentious second presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, has been the target of criticism for his less than moderate approach to the debates. Bartiromo referenced how Wallace deliberately shut Trump down when he asked Biden about the dealings of his son, Hunter Biden, with foreign governments. Now, we're live tweeting that thing at the time, and it was obvious what was going on. And we were saying the same thing. It's like, if you have a Fox personality, the assumption is by the Republican that at the very least they're going to get a fair shake. And Wallace didn't give Trump a fair shake. Let's be honest, he didn't. And it was one of the reasons that a lot of people just said, all right, that's it, we're done with Wallace. Bartiromo referenced that. The script from the debate demonstrates how Wallace tried his absolute best to steer Trump away from asking any of the questions about Hunter Biden, siding with candidate Joe Biden, who claimed that Trump's accusations had been totally discredited. And of course, they hadn't been discredited. And he says, when President Trump, we've already been through this. I think the American people would rather hear about more substantial subjects. Okay, we got a war in Ukraine right now, right? We're going to talk about this on the radio show today. Hunter Biden tried to make money off of the first war in Crimea. And he tried to make that money with Russian oligarchs. And the Ukrainian members of parliament and their top law enforcement official, their version of the attorney general, has accused the Biden family and many other top Democrats of stealing at least $50 million from Ukraine. That's a big issue. And here you have multiple news networks in the United States, multiple politicians. You've got Chris Wallace at the debates refusing to allow any of that to be brought up. Refusing. And now, of course, once again, it's almost like going back, and I hate to give Mitt Romney a little credit, but it's almost like going back when Mitt Romney said, hey, Russia's our biggest geopolitical foe, which is different than enemy, okay? Geopolitical foe. And everybody saying, oh, hey, the Cold War wants their foreign policy back. And now we find out, of course, that Mitt Romney is basically right. We found out that first year after that election, Mitt Romney was basically right, because shortly after that's when Crimea happened. And then now we're sitting in a situation where everybody was shutting Trump down on this Hunter Biden stuff. Everybody's shutting the New York Post down on the Hunter Biden stuff. And it turns out that not only is it extremely relevant, not only did it steer the election in a way that it would not have steered it otherwise had the story actually been covered based on the polling data of Biden supporters, but beyond that, very, very important topic in not just with international dealings, but also the potential that, criminals in the Biden family, including the big guy, which is, according to Hunter Biden's former business partner, who's now been convicted of fraud, the big guy is Joe Biden. And so there's potential illegal behavior by Joe Biden himself, and there's potential illegal behavior by his brother and his son in financial interests in which he has a part of. And that they may have used his position as the vice president at the time to make that money. And if any of that was true, then it should have been mentioned to the American public. And I always point out the United States and Ukraine have this discovery treaty where in the preliminary times of an investigation in the discovery phase, we have to provide aid to them if they are in the discovery phase of a criminal investigation. And we have not done that. And that has been a big sticking point with me. Even going back to the Trump administration, I've explained why I think the Trump administration didn't allow the Ukrainians to come over and present their case to Congress. I just think that it was the wrong decision to do, but I understand why they made that decision. So it goes through the transcript here, which you probably read while you're listening to me ramble. Recent reports have pointed not only to Hunter Biden's apparent guilt, but also in the media's attempt to hide any reports of the former vice president's son's dealings. And Bartiromo wants to know how the president is supposed to be unbiased and fair with his dealings with these certain countries, namely China, Russia, and Ukraine, when his family has so many connections to those countries, which is a great question. This is the thing that we said before he even got into office. Like, look, he's going to get in there. He's going to have a very pro-Russia policy. He's going to have a very pro-China policy. And until the Ukrainian situation happened, Joe Biden's presidency has been pro-Russia and pro-China. Don't know how else to say it. It has been. But now you've got Ukraine, and Ukraine has this massive connection to corrupt rich people in Europe and the United States, and politicians in particular, using Ukraine to launder money through. And now you've got all of them. This is why I think the rhetoric has been so amped up on the Ukraine situation. You've got so many of these political elites, if you will, coming out and going, hold on a second, our shady business dealings in Ukraine might get uncovered, so let's just block out any Russian news. Let's say anybody who even remotely takes Russia's side on an issue, and Russia has told the truth many times, while Ukraine has lied many times throughout this conflict. The opposite is also true. And you're immediately labeled as being like a Russian propagandist. And it's overwhelming, the onslaught that happens. Tucker Carlson's dealing with it. I've dealt with it to a lesser degree, but a lot of people who have pointed out, like, hey, some of the stuff that Russia say is true. Just throwing that out there. And it's like, well, okay, you're a Russian propagandist, even though it's demonstrably true. So you have this very unusual sort of a alliance, if you will, with the Ukrainians. And it's not just about sympathy for the people of Ukraine. There's clearly something else going on beyond just sympathy for the people of Ukraine, because we are demonstrating a visceral anger about this, and the media push in the West is so different with Ukraine than it has been with other countries who have been invaded and have seen some similar stuff happen. So my assumption is that there's a big push from elites in politics and things like that in Europe and the United States to really be on top of this, because they don't want anything that they may have done that was shady uncovered in Ukraine. For example, biolabs, that gets uncovered in Ukraine. Other stuff gets uncovered in Ukraine. Ukraine has accused the Biden family of criminal enterprise, and they've also accused other top Democrats of criminal enterprise. Zelensky is the reform candidate. He comes in. He's supposed to clean up the corrupt Poroshenko government. Zelensky starts doing that. Western media attacks Zelensky. This is before the Russian invasion. Keep in mind, before the Russian invasion, President Zelensky was considered a totalitarian by American media. Go back and look at any of the stories prior to the invasion of Russia by Russia. Go look at those articles, and you will see article after article after article, CNN and MSNBC and New York Times and Washington Post and LA Times. Zelensky's a totalitarian. And just, where's all that coming from? You assume that somebody, right, at the higher-ups were feeding them that information and, steering those news articles. Now, obviously, when Russia invades, suddenly Zelensky becomes, public hero number one. But I've always, I've told you guys throughout the process of this that I think one of the issues you're going to see with Ukraine going forward now is Zelensky is going to be beholden to a lot of the people in the West that he might have been looking to expose. And because now they're giving him weapons, they're giving him money, they're giving him supplies, they're giving him logistical support, they're helping to train troops and that sort of thing. And there's going to be, this is where I think that they're just shoring up their power base. And unfortunately, he might end up, although I'm starting to wonder where his attitude is kind of changing. But if he's going to end up being beholden to them, and now he's not going to do the reforms that he so desperately campaigned on and said the country needed. Be very interesting to see how this all develops in the future. But it doesn't look good either way for the Ukrainian people, unfortunately. Speaking of, I had this story last week. I forgot to get to it, and I mentioned it yesterday on the show, and I wanted to talk about it today. Now, it does come from the Daily Mail, and my general position on the Daily Mail for anything Ukraine is don't believe anything they say, but this does appear to be confirmed in other reports. It's just that this is the most detailed article that I had on it. And this is some French resistance type stuff. 2 Russian soldiers have died and 28 are in a hospital after they were poisoned by pastry delicacies offered to them by civilians near Kharkiv. Now, if this is true, and again, just automatically take everything out of that country with a grain of salt, because there's been so much propaganda, so many lies coming out of there on both sides. You just take a step back, just wait for things to kind of settle for a week or so. It's okay to talk about it, report on the early assumptions, but always take a step back, because the story almost always changes in Ukraine. You get a story, it blows up, turns out to be big. 5-6 days later, it's just completely debunked as nonsense. So do yourself a favor and just assume that everything coming out of there is from a propaganda standpoint, okay? But this is totally something that I could see happen. And so the Russians, of course, huge battle in Kharkiv, and apparently the Russians, which I'm sure if this happened, the Russian Ministry of Defense probably promoted as, hey, civilians are greeting us as liberators and that sort of thing. Next thing you know, they get poisoned because it's actually a resistance operation to poison everybody. So very interesting. Very interesting to see that. And this is from the 3rd Motor Rifle Division. And keep that in the back of your mind with the 3rd Motor Rifle Division, because they're being alleged in some other stuff that's going on too. So keep that in mind, okay? All right. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court and some interesting things that are happening with the Supreme Court. It looks like Judge Jackson might get on the court. I don't know what else to tell you. It looks very likely, and that is because of, again, 2 Republicans who are going along with the Democrats, and I already know that you know their names, because if you have to guess Republican senators going along with Democrats, there's usually about 2 to 3 names that come up, and most people know what those names are. So I'm going to talk about this coming up in just a minute, but first we got to pay some bills and tell you about our wonderful sponsor, SilverFoxArt.com. I know you're shocked, right? Mitt Romney and Lisa Murkowski. Shocking. I know that you're just stunned by that, but they're the ones who are going to back Ketanji Brown Jackson, the pro-pedophile. There's no other way to say it. She's pro-pedophile, guys. If you have listened to my show at all, or other people's shows, and you've read these transcripts that we went over on my radio show yesterday, there's no justification for any of this. Somebody who apologizes to a pedophile who has over 600 images and videos, somebody who apologized to that pedophile for giving them 3 months after they uploaded videos of 11-year-olds being raped to YouTube. And she apologized to them that she had to do that because she wasn't allowed to give him less than 3 months. And then when he reoffended, she gave him 6 months, not in prison, but in a reentry facility. How on earth can you defend that? In every single child pornography case that she got, every single one of them, she did the same thing. So Mitt Romney, Lisa Murkowski. I know you're shocked by all this. Sarah Palin attacking Lisa Murkowski there. Of course, Sarah Palin is announced she's running for Congress. Senators Mitch McConnell, but basically the same thing. Mitt Romney, Republican of Utah. Lisa Murkowski, Republican of Alaska, on Monday announced their plans to vote to confirm Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court. They are the second and the third Republicans after Senator Susan Collins, Republican of Maine. Another shocker there. Voiced support for former Vice President Joe Biden's nominee, who will replace Justice Stephen Breyer. Their announcements came just hours after the Senate Judiciary Committee tied on a vote to recommend Judge Jackson's nomination to the entire Senate. After a procedural vote, Jackson's confirmation vote is expected to occur by the end of the week. Now, I told you before, Judge Jackson was a win-win situation for Democrats. So you basically get the most radical individual you could possibly think of. You nominate her. When Republicans block it, you make a big election deal out of it for the midterms, right? If they don't block it and they go along with it, you get a radical judge on the Supreme Court. So it's a win-win situation. It was a brilliantly played strategy, and they knew that there was going to be 2 to 3 weak Republican senators who are just going to go along to get along because that's what they do. There you go. Anybody who has reviewed her record should have concerns. And the problem is that Mitt Romney is out there saying he did review her record. And he says, after reviewing Judge Jackson's record and testimony, I have concluded that she is a well-qualified jurist and a person of honor. Anybody who read her record would not say that. Anybody. She's lied to the hearing. She's been caught lying to the hearing. A person of honor who's going on the Supreme Court doesn't do that, right? While I do not expect to agree with every decision that she may make in the court, I believe that she more than meets the standard of excellence and integrity. He said, I congratulate Judge Jackson on her expected confirmation and look forward to her continued service to our nation. So there you go. I don't know how else to say it. She is going to be on the Supreme Court, it looks like, based on the votes. You know, Republicans are 3 are going to be pulling with the Democrats. They're going to do this, and that's what we're going to get. It's unfortunate, but as a result of this, you're going to have some very interesting Supreme Court rulings, and obviously she doesn't change the makeup of the court, but you will get the opinions that she writes, I think, are going to be very telling of what the selection actually means. And the Supreme Court, after she is confirmed, which is expected at this point in time, after she is confirmed, the Supreme Court will get more friendly to pedophiles. There is no way around that. But the good news is that she will be the first black Supreme Court justice by the end of the week, according to Politico. Yeah. So Politico, again, continues to clown themselves because that's what they do. And yeah, don't know what else to tell you. Somebody go, oh, they just forgot to put a word in there. Yeah, well, it's Politico. All right, so here's some of the quotes that I published some of this stuff for people to see. I feel sorry for them, the pedophile's family. and for you and for the anguish that this has caused all of you. That is Judge Ketanji Brown. After this is the case involving the teenager with the 600 images and videos of children being raped. He uploaded a video. He uploaded several videos to YouTube. And in those videos, children as young as 11 were being raped by grown adults. Okay. And she did not believe that that was a heinous or egregious child pornography offense. So she gave him 3 months. Said he wasn't at risk of reoffending. She also said that I feel terrible about the collateral consequences of this conviction, meaning how society stigmatizes sex offenders. Okay. She then said there is no reason to believe that you are a pedophile because non-pedophiles have over 600 images like that and then upload them to YouTube for other people to see. Right. And again, there is no example of a reformed pedophile that I've ever heard of. Don't exist. Never, ever been presented with a single example of a reformed pedophile. Ever. She said that while dismissing any concerns that he would reoffend 6 years later, he did reoffend, and that time she gave him 6 months in a residential reentry center. And that's who Mitt Romney thinks is an honorable person. That's who 3 Republicans and every Democrat to be lockstep in with all of this thinks is deserving to be on the Supreme Court of the United States. That's who they're pushing for. That's where we're at. There was a time where you were mocked for even mentioning NAMBLA on your radio show because they were such a fringe group and nobody supported them. And now they're getting people who would help them get light sentences in jail and prison onto the Supreme Court. That's what we're dealing with. We're on our way to a dystopian society, like China. Most of you know what China is like, at least from the outside. Most of you know what China's like. Sorry, I hit my microphone there. So there's some videos. I'm going to go ahead and turn the volume up just a little bit, not maximum, because you don't understand what they're really saying anyway. Here's a video of the Chinese citizen who is showing the world what shenanigans the commies are up to in Shanghai and surrounding areas. So they walk into an area, you got to take a knee, they got to scan your vaccine passport. This is how things are there. Now, apparently in Shanghai, if memory serves me correct, there's the new outbreak that is happening there with one of the new strains. And, of course, China immediately goes on dystopian lockdown. That's what they do. So they're kneeling in the streets as the government workers check their digital COVID passports and test them before allowing them to go anywhere or to do anything. And as most of you know, the COVID vaccines, none of them that have been developed anywhere in the world that we are aware of, prevents infection. Not a single solitary one. In the United States, Pfizer's CEO says that the 4th shot, the second booster, only lasts about 2 months. So that's kind of where that technology is at. And we totally need to get other ones. And they've said it's very good at preventing people from going to the hospital. But again, Omicron and now these new versions, which I call the OB1 versions, the BA1, BA2, they're even less deadly than Omicron was. And Omicron wasn't deadly for hardly anybody. So they're going to use this as a justification. World Health Organization, we talked about on the radio show yesterday. World Health Organization is out there just constantly, hey, we're going to have to lock down again. Fauci's out there saying we might have to put masks on again. Yeah, I don't think so. So the Chinese government allegedly can change the color of these passports to keep whomever it wants at home or even mark them for deportation to a quarantine camp. That's the allegation here. I'm not going to show you sensitive videos again because of algorithmic stuff on YouTube, and I don't want to deal with that. We do simulcast on YouTube and Rumble, which is why I don't show you some of the videos that are available to you all, but you see the articles and that they're real. Let's see. If you're a close contact or even close contact of a close contact of the infected, the Chinese authorities will change the color of your QR code vaccine passport from green to red, and that means you can't go anywhere but a COVID quarantine camp. So it's the whole social credit score thing. These are those camps that people were showcasing in January. Those are all individual rooms. And I believe that there was a couple of Westerners who were kind of stuck in those things for a while, too, before they could get out. But that's what they want. You know, if you can get to a point where you can't even move freely throughout your country without the right ideas or the right viewpoints or any of that, then that's where we're headed. And beyond, there's a lot of people, there's obviously tons of the left support this. There's several people in the middle who support this, and there's a lot of people on the right who support it too. And that's, you know, the unfortunate reality is we're going to be heading down that dark path. And until people actually stop and say enough is enough, and I'm not sure that we're at a point where people are going to do that, folks. I really don't know. I honestly don't know. You see people go to Washington, D.C. that you think might actually fight for you, and then a couple of years later, suddenly they're a part of the swamp. And everybody who goes to D.C. probably goes to D.C. thinking that they're going to make a difference, that they're going to change things, and then what ends up happening is they get roped up into something. You know, whether that's being blackmailed or they just get involved in, you know, money making, or they just genuinely end up liking the people they work with and no longer buy into their old rhetoric or what have you. I don't know. I'm sure it's different for everybody, but this is something that we need to be very worried about. And I know that people look at this and go, well, that's just China. It's not us. But China's exporting this technology everywhere across the world. And you've watched over the past several years as they have implemented this, basically this great reset strategy. You know, you can call it a new world order if you want. You can call it globalism, whatever. It's this great reset strategy that, hey, we're going to get everybody to kind of fall in line. And if they don't fall in line, then we're not going to allow them to do anything. They're not going to post on social media. They're not going to be able to have their own websites. They're not going to be able to have a bank account. They're not going to be able to buy a car, buy a house, travel, that sort of stuff. We've already seen that happen here. But that's just, here it's just an emergency order, right? But in China, that's daily life. Has been for a long time. So got to be very wary of stuff like this. But as Jack has pointed out, yep, this is what they want. They want you kneeling and pulling out your vaccine passport. And if they don't like you, for whatever reason, change the color of your QR code. And just like that, you can't travel freely. What a world, right? Who would have thought? 1984 or Brave New World, which one is more accurate? Or are they both as equally accurate as the other? Who knows? All right, folks, I got to run a little bit behind today, so I got to go do some show prep for the radio show. I'll see you in an hour and a half right here on Rumble. Go to rumble.com/Casey the host if you're on YouTube, and you'll be able to check that out. And again, here is my awkward delay at the end of the show so I can end the stream without getting cut off.